David, fun duel this weekend. Just sort of what are your thoughts going into it?
Yeah, no, it's going to be a good one. Virginia Tech's got a good team, and we're looking forward to it.
Any updates on 133? What your moves there are going to be?
Well, I guess we'll find out.
This week,
Yeah, Ronnie and Jackson both travel this weekend.
I know we're talking to Trevor. Is that a short-term situation at 184, or is he going to be your guy the rest of the way?
Trevor's wrestling this weekend, and then we'll figure out what's going to happen next weekend.
What stood out about Trevor?
He just wants to wrestle. We appreciate that, and Trevor's been here for a long time. And what I like about Trevor is he started this year at 197, and he kind of asked like, hey, where do I have my best chance to be able to get some matches this year? And I said, well, team needs you at probably 184, and he made the sacrifice and cut down, and just every week's available and ready to go. And really appreciate those guys and really appreciate Trevor. And he's wrestled twice and fought really hard both times. And this weekend's another opportunity for him to go out and wrestle. Looking forward to it.
The deal at 184 is probably an injury situation that you don't want to really get into. I get that. Well, what are the pros and cons at 33? Because I know I keep saying Jax all the time, but I'm kind of programmed with his amateur wrestling and what he's done and accomplished. But what are the pros and cons with Ramirez and Forrest at 33?
Well, I would rewind. The first time we sat here, you said, surely we can't wrestle Jax at the national tournament. You got that on film, I think.
I don't think I said that.
I remember you right here.
But, okay.
However, no, I just think, I'm not giving you a hard time, but yeah. I think that, you just got to give guys a chance to wrestle. And what are the pros and cons to having, two good guys wrestling is, one, we know who we're going to wrestle, and opponents don't know who we're going to wrestle, and I think there's some good stuff to that. And it's a long season. There's a lot of things that we got to balance, and always trying to balance more than just what's going on right now in this moment in the dual meet. There's always a bigger picture that we got to keep in mind, for everybody, and just kind of always balancing that stuff.
I know it's not a concern right now, but what's the conversation like after this season? Because you probably want one of those guys to go up or down, and you want it to be the easiest for them and their bodies, but that is a transition you'll look at in the off season with those two.
Yeah, I think that's coaching. It's just when you try and build a program of this caliber to do what we're trying to do, it takes more than 10 guys. It does. And I think everybody wants to know who your 10 starters are, and I get that, but we got 30 guys in our team, and we're trying to have 30 killers, 30 guys that are seeking out Oklahoma State because they know this is the best place to achieve your goals short-term and long-term. And short-term may be, you win the Nationals this year, and maybe next year it's going to be a redshirt year. Maybe it's redshirt now. Maybe you don't make the team for a year or 2 years, but you're going to step in and you're going to win the Nationals as a junior. It's just like having a bigger picture. I think a lot of people are chasing their tails, and they want to know what happens right now, and they want some gratification, and that's just not wrestling. Wrestling's not an instant gratification sport. Wrestling's a hard sport, and you get guys out there, and you need guys that want to wrestle the way that we want to wrestle, and we're very transparent in the recruiting process. Like, no one here is ever going to have a guaranteed spot. No one here is going to step in here and just, you're the guy and that's it. No, you're going to compete, and you need that. You need a competitive room because that's what you need to be the best, and to chase down the things that we're trying to chase down, you need that kind of competition in the room, and it's all across the board. We have awesome guys here that love this program, and we love them. And if I could wrestle 15 guys, I'd love to wrestle 15 guys. Just only can wrestle 10. So it was a bigger picture. Everyone wants to know how do you win a national title? Well, you do that with having really good guys in the room and recruiting at a high level. You don't do it without that. And sometimes you're going to have some overlap, and those things are going to work themselves out. It'll work themselves out. That's what happens.
For whichever guy does go, Aaron Sidell's had a really good start to his career. Just sort of what have you thought about the way he started?
Yeah, he's a tough kid. He was a tough kid in Pennsylvania. He's been a tough kid since he was a little guy. Jax and him wrestled last year in the state finals. That was a pretty big match, and kind of move forward. Sidell had a really good kind of start to his redshirt year, and then they started to wrestle him, and then, so I just think, he's been really good. He's wrestled all the elite guys his whole life. He's a tough wrestler, and that's, guys on our team, both of our guys are looking forward to the opportunity to wrestling him, and, it's just, you got to be good guys to win dual meets. You got to be good guys to be a national champ, and, those are the fun things, You don't look forward to the matches that you get to go out and wrestle with someone that's not going to challenge you, You look forward to those things, I'm sure on both parts, both sides of that.
Yeah, a guy that I think's gotten lost with some of the great things some of your wrestlers have done is Landon Produ. He got beat right before Christmas, before the end of the semester, and every match he's wrestled since looks like he remembers that loss, and he's that guy, I don't want to do that again. I mean, he's been on a vengeance tour.
I think he kind of been like that since his first match.
He has, but I think the Nebraska loss, you've seen, I mean, he's on a mission.
Yeah, I think all of our guys are. I mean,
Mhm.
these kids are competitive, and they hate losing, and they want to, they're competing with each other. They're driven. They want to have some big goals. So, yeah, I mean, I think anytime that something doesn't go your way, like how do you rebound from that is important. And talking about the returning national champ, that I think Landon scored the only offensive points in that match, right? So it got a reversal and came a little short. So I think that it was a good learning lesson for him. Like, hey, this is how guys are going to wrestle me to try and slow me down. I got to make some improvements, and that's kind of been where we've been focusing on. But he's a guy that wrestles with a lot of intensity, and he wrestles really hard, and he's an integral part of our team, and just everything. Like, he's really integral to our team in a lot of ways. But yeah, he's a tough wrestler. And we're glad he's in our lineup.
It feels like postseason is a long way away, but in terms of competition dates, you just got 2 between now and then. Are you? How do you feel about where your team is at on the path toward what your ultimate goals are?
Feel good about it. I think this year we knew we'd have a young squad. A team that hasn't necessarily have a ton of experience. From a collegiate wrestling standpoint, and I think they've gotten better every week. I think we kind of talked about like where we were in November and where our team is now. We're getting better every week, and we got good benchmark this weekend. Staying focused and focus on that, moving forward. And I think everyone's got the nationals in the back of their mind, because that's why you do it. You do it because you want to be a national champ. So I think guys are progressing. We're still trying to help them get better at wrestling every day, and these guys have come in with really good energy. And so if the national tournament was tomorrow, we'd be ready to go. Luckily, we got till March, and I think our guys will keep getting better and be at their best then.
You announced Iowa as a sellout already. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those matches, like, it's gonna be a big match because it's so ingrained in the DNA, of the two programs. Like, I think that's I don't know, it's been going on for decades, right? So, yeah, it's gonna be fun. What we gotta focus on right now, obviously, what we have ahead of us this weekend, the Virginia Tech match is a tough match. We gotta be ready to go, and but that's certainly looking forward to having our last home match here, next weekend. What we do for home matches, I think, are pretty special and unique. We're definitely moving the needle in college wrestling, and which is pretty awesome. And you think about sellouts, like, we effectively, we had two sellouts this year. Is pretty awesome. So appreciate everyone that's come in. And my biggest message would be, hey, if you're not going to come to the match, like, make sure you're giving your tickets away or selling them or whatever you want to do, because we need every butt in the seats. That's important.
Have you enjoyed being a part of some of the things you guys have done as part of the event of the home duels?
Yeah, I mean, I just like being there. I like watching our guys wrestle. I just like all of it. I like working with our marketing team and definitely challenging them. Like, I think when we first got here, there was a lot of ideas that I had that we kind of laughed at a little bit. Like, we can't do those things. We're wrestling. And I'm like, no, we certainly can do it because we're wrestling and because we're Oklahoma State. Like, we need to do these things, and wrestling needs it. And I think now you're starting to see a lot more production going into wrestling matches. And I think these kids deserve it, and I think wrestling deserves it, because it's really hard. I think one of the challenges in wrestling is how do you keep it interactive and constantly. And I think that's what we've done a good job of, a lot more fan engagement, and it's really good when you have a lot of people in there. You know, and to hear some of our opposing coaches talk about how difficult it is to wrestle here, you know, that's our goal. You know, this is a pretty special place, and we're doing some really cool things, and yeah, we really enjoy it. You know, I look forward to our home matches. They're a lot of fun.
I know all of the weights are important up in Blacksburg, but for Troy, and he's been wrestling well right now, he gets a pretty good measuring stick with their 125-pounder. That's going to be a good one for him, isn't it?
Yeah, Ventresca's tough. You know, they've wrestled twice last year. You know, in the dual meet, Troy was able to open up on him a little bit, and you know, in the national semis last year, it was one of the most instinctual moments that I've ever remember in wrestling. You know, there was that double overtime, and the kid got away like right away, and Troy just didn't hesitate. He was in on the leg and finished the takedown. And in that moment, if he doesn't shoot that takedown, like the match probably kind of kid runs away and he probably doesn't get another chance. You know, which was awesome. It just kind of showed how much Troy was staying present in that moment, and we've talked about that as a teaching lesson for our team. So we've kind of seen both sides of that, and Ventresca is really good at wrestling, low scoring, very little exchange matches, and that's where he probably thrives. And just got to be something where Troy's going to have to work to open him up a little bit, to be good test for him. And but that's why we go wrestle, and I know Troy's looking forward to it. It'll be a good match.
Big matches at 49, 97 heavyweight as well. Do you have any takes on those matchups?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a team, we don't really we look forward to the tough matches. We're not being like, oh, it's a tough match. We don't, even in a tough match, we don't really change much of what we're doing. We're expecting the very best from every single person and every single team up and down the board. There's not a lot of emphasis put into specific matches. It's like, what are we doing, and how can we go wrestle the best of our abilities? That's our focus. And yeah, those some tough matches, sure, but our guys are pretty tough too. So we just got to go out and continue to execute what we're doing, expect the energy level to be high, match that energy, and execute what we're working on. Those are matches that we can open up. We can't. Or we can stand around, they can be close. So it's something I feel like we can dictate those things, and we'll have to go out and do that.
You referenced Landon's match with Antrell Taylor earlier. Do you think that reversals should still be worth 2 points now that takedowns are worth 3? Where do you sort of stand on that?
I don't know. Maybe reversals should be worth 5 points. I don't know. I mean, I think we can. I think reversals a little more. It's a little challenging, different guys like to do different things, but no, I think takedown 3 versus 2, they're fine. There's a lot of incentives just to score points. You think about how easy it is. If you put a guy on his back for 2 seconds, you get 2 points. We got to do more of that. Then it'll make our life a lot easier. But we just got to keep scoring.
And do it before there's 2 seconds left on the clock.
It definitely makes it easier.
Yeah.
But we just got to keep scoring all the way down, and there's a lot of ways to score points. We just got to keep working on those things.
You talked about marketing a while ago and how important that is to the program. When you came in, you kind of had this Steely Boys deal that's kind of behind the scenes. How important was that to kind of have that set up where people kind of have that? How important was that to you coming in?
I think it's just trying to, and I think sometimes if you look back, like Oklahoma State wrestling has had just this amazing pedigree, but you kind of get insulated here in Stillwater, and I think it's just kind of bringing more light to our program, whether you're in the wrestling room or outside the wrestling room, or just starting to really see what's it like to be around our team. I think just this we got a lot of great personalities, and we have a lot of really cool things that we're doing down here, and just I think it's a good way. I mean, content is everything in this world, and I think it's an advantage that our staff has. We're a little younger and we kind of understand it probably a little better, and definitely challenging the wrestling community, and you see the other people kind of stepping up in that, and I think that's good. It's good for wrestling. Get people outside their comfort zone, and people are consuming content all the time, and we just got to do a better job of continuing to give people a peek and decide what we're doing, and it's good for the kids, good for our program, it's good for people coming and watching our matches. But yeah, we got a lot of really cool things going down here, and definitely setting the trends.
You got a stage. Next year you should plan on having a post-dual concert. Wrestling concert together, and do it post so you and the wrestlers can enjoy the concert too. If you do it before, you guys are all racked up getting ready for the wrestling, so you need to do it after.
Yeah, that would be pretty sweet. And we've talked about a concert before, and we've got a couple ideas next year. I think that could be really cool. But yeah, we're always planning, in the future, but right now, obviously, we just got to stay focused on what we're doing right now. And but yeah, we got a lot of really cool ideas that we can execute here.